Now, former President Jacob Zuma says he has nothing to hide from the revenue collector. This as a court has set aside a subpoena requesting the Sars Commissioner to hand over Zuma's tax information. The public protector is seeking access to the former president's tax records. This follows the DA's request to see Zuma's Sars statements. He claims he received benefits from which he did not declare. Govan Whittles is covering this story for us. He joins us now live. So let's first get the context and tell us about what the DA's complaint is about.
It emanates from the Gupta leaks. If you can remember some documents coming out claiming that former President Jacob Zuma was receiving a monthly salary from a private security company. I believe that prominent ANC donor Roy Moodley was involved in that security company. That was not investigated at length, besides, of course, in the press. And now we're seeing the Democratic Alliance's complaint to the public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, a complaint that's over a year old, by the way, reaching its culmination phase. And that's what we saw today. SARS going to the High Court and applying for a subpoena issued by Busisiwe Mkhwebane to be interdicted because SARS believes it cannot share any information involving its taxpayers. But on the other hand, it cannot intentionally ignore a subpoena because that in itself is a criminal action, and so it had to go to court to have that subpoena set aside, and that's exactly what the court ruled. It also, SARS and the public protector also agreed that they'll continue speaking to the deputy judge president in Gauteng about the powers of the public protector and whether in this scenario SARS should be obligated to release the private tax information of the former president. Of course, they haven't said it's the former president. They're duty-bound not to say who it is.
Yeah, not to disclose it. Edward Kisweta, of course, speaking earlier as well. What's he saying?
Edward Kisweta saying that they didn't have much of an option but to go to court. And it's an interesting scenario here, Shahan, because Kisweta and Busisiwe Mkhwebane actually met, and a meeting which Kisweta describes as one that took place in good faith. After that meeting, they had agreed that there was an impasse and they sought joint legal advice. They got the same legal advice which basically says SARS is onside in saying that it can't release the information. But then the subpoena came. It obviously took the SARS commissioner by surprise. Let's have a look now at what he had to say about it.
The reason we went to court has nothing to do with any taxpayer. It has to do with a legal principle. The context is very simple. Our understanding in terms of the Tax Administration Act is that SARS may not provide confidential taxpayer information to any party other than is expressly provided for in the law, and that the public protector is not covered by any of those provisions. And therefore, providing information to the taxpayer in fact means that the commissioner or any official who provides that information would be guilty of a criminal offense. And that's very clear. Then, in the face of that, the commissioner is then faced with a subpoena issued by the public protector that the commissioner appears before her tomorrow and to disclose the confidential taxpayer information. To ignore that in itself would be a criminal offense. And so really one finds oneself between a rock and a hard place.
And Jacob Zuma responding on Twitter, yeah?
Yeah, interestingly, Jacob Zuma, former president, saying that he's never had a problem with sharing information with the public protector. Then saying that he cooperated with Thuli Madonsela while she was public protector and committing to sharing information with Busisiwe Mkhwebane. So, problem solved. Yeah. I guess the only problem is that even if Jacob Zuma gives this information to Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the only way that she could check if that tax record is complete is by having the SARS record to compare it with. And we're back to square one in that regard. So even though the former president's olive branch may have also been in good faith, it really doesn't resolve the dispute because only SARS has that full record which cannot be tampered with, I suppose, before being handed over to the public protector.